There. Oh,
Hey, Howdy Meeps. We're live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, coming live to you from London, Ontario, Canada. Still have my shrink-wrapped root over there alongside Thornwatch, because you know what? I design games and I have no time to play them. And I live amongst a mess of stuff. But here with us this week is the lovely and talented Kathleen Mercury. It's
hello.
funny and I feel very weird saying that, not the lovely and talented part, but the lovely and talented part.
Mm,
I only
well, we
say
can.
that when like there's females, and that sounds weird. Do I ever
Well,
say
to be
handsome
fair,
and talented?
you could. I make a good dude. Hey,
Sure.
everyone.
Okay.
Let's sports. Um, yeah, both of those points are debatable. So it's good to put out some like little points we could kind of wrestle with from the start. So it's good. Start out controversial. Am I
Okay.
lovely? Am I
Yes.
Way to
talented?
go, son.
I know, right?
Or you can introduce the guests before we get into the debate.
Yeah. Before we get into the debate, this is Kathleen Mercury, everyone.
Hi.
Kathleen is our guest tonight. We are doing another new designer spotlight. Jesse is actually closer. He's in Barrie, Ontario, except that he cannot join us tonight because he said, I'm going to spend my time with my family instead of you guys, which feels, we feel bad about that, I guess, a little, but it's okay. It's all right. It's all right. He deserves to spend time with his family. He's been in the States for so long that he needs to spend time with some of his peeps. Erica, what's up?
I'm tired, but that's all good. No, it's just been a long week. Everything's awesome. I'm chugging through some stuff, trying to finish it up myself so I can start some new projects soon. So I'm very
Yes.
excited about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. We've got a lot of things going on between Erica and myself and Kathleen. So we're going to talk about all of that. And we're going to talk specifically about a game that Kathleen has coming. But before we do that, Kathleen, I have to tell you that nobody wanted to talk about games when I posted about you coming on the show today. They only wanted to talk about that belt of yours. Because I posted, what I posted was, we're going to talk to Kathleen about this game she has and this other stuff and how she's going to have to give up the belt. And they were like, what do you mean she has to give up the belt? And I said, well, I mean, it's a yearly tournament, right? And
Yes.
so someday you may have to give up the belt unless what?
Well, unless I win.
Right.
So
So let's explain where the belt came from.
Yeah.
So people understand the belt.
So I live in St. Louis, and I've been going to Geekway to the West for many, many years because it's down the street. And every year they run a Battling Tops tournament, similar that they do to BGG, and it's a 64-person tournament. And this year I won, and I want to explain that I had a spot, but then I gave it to my nephew because he wasn't signed up, and he, of course, he's 14. He loves Battling Tops, so he'll scream with the best of them. And then there were some spots left over, and my sister grabbed one of the tops and gave it to me. And I was like, well, at this point, if I'm doing this, I'm getting the one with my name on it. So I made the guy who had mine switch with me. And then I was like, and I'm going to win. And I knew, as certain as you could be certain of anything, I knew I was going to win. And I literally like steamrolled the competition, like in rounds.
It was destined. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it was
like
ordained by a higher power.
Right. I'm not. Yes. And so I literally, like, rounds would be like me 3-1-0-0, like steamrolled. And so then when I was in the finals with my very good friend Scott Reed. Hi, sweetheart. You know who you are.
Oh no.
Oh no.
She's frozen.
She's frozen. Oh, there she is. Oh.
The belt, and I would tag Scott in all of those pictures. And it's so funny because people were like, who's Scott? And I'd explain, and they think it was funny. Poor Scott, his Facebook feed was just like stuffed with pictures of me with this belt. But it was great. Like, I took pictures of like so many friends and people in the gaming world that like I normally don't take pictures with, you know what I mean? And so it was like really cool to like, wow, this person. So, but it was so much fun, like just going around and like taunting him constantly. And like one of my favorites from the summer was when I went to DC in over Memorial Day weekend, and I took lots of pictures in DC in front of the Capitol building, all these different places. And there was one where it was in the Library of Congress, and they've got this reading room, and it's only open like 2 days a year, and that day it was open. So we went in, and I made a reference in my taunt, because I would of course taunt him about the clock. And it was like a small like kind of thing in the background. And he said, well, if you're going to use the background, it needs to be more specific, not so oblique. And I was like, okay. Well, the next day I had to drive to Utah with my great friend, Adrienne Azell. Hello, darling. We drove to Utah for the Tabletop Networks conference. Scott lives in Kansas somewhere, but right off the highway. So the very next day, I was able to sit on his front porch in the middle of Kansas somewhere with this belt on, you know, and on his porch swing saying, is this specific enough for you? So like that was super great. And then one more with Dice Tower. This guy was playing My Little Scythe with us, and he said, well, I've got this wrestling belt. And we're like, wait, what are you talking about? And he pulls out this cardboard belt because he has different designers like sign the belt. And he's like, look, I've got this wrestling belt, huh? And I said, oh, sweetheart, if you think that's a belt. And then I pulled this out of my bag. Like it just could not be scripted. So yeah. But the one thing as far as like relinquishing the belt, my kind of main point I've been saying is possession might change, but there is no question that I own this belt.
Yes. Have you been keeping up with the daily pictures?
Not since the school year started. I teach, and I don't know that everyone wants to see, here's the recycling bin in the belt. Here's my stapler in the belt. I do have a red swing line, so that's kind of exciting, I guess. But but there's some events coming up, you know, where I'll be sure to have the belt. I'm going to Iceland in March, and the belt is going to Iceland in March. I mean, like, and there's some other. Of course it is. So there's some stuff. There will be belt pictures. It's just like the day-to-day mundanity of, you know,
life.
Here's the pile of grading I'm currently avoiding, and my wrestling belt.
That's in my bag. That pile of grading is in my bag.
I got that upstairs too.
Right.
Right. You know, this is like the teacher talk. So yeah. So this is my belt.
Oh, I like the belt. Oh, speaking of teacher talk, I was just on another podcast called Cardboard in the Classroom with Norm Lepage.
Yeah, I'm talking to him tomorrow.
Excellent, good, because I kind of pointed him in everybody else's directions, who is also, you know, teaching and game designing and things like that. We actually had a really good discussion about instructional design and game design and how it overlaps, and it's really cool actually to talk about that with somebody else who understands instructional design and who likes games. So it's a common intersection, but it's also not common. I can't talk with any of the faculty at school about that except like Scott, my friend who designs games with me. Everybody else is like, well, what do you mean? I don't get it.
Right. Well, and I do the podcast Games in Schools and Libraries. And so I had John Cassie. He's written a book on gamification in the classroom. And we had so much fun talking to each other before we recorded, during, afterwards. And he's like, you know, it's so rare that, you know, can talk to somebody who it's not necessarily expository at this point, but, you know, like I'm in it. I've been doing this for over 10 years.
Suppository?
No, expository.
I said
I know.
I'm
kind of leading up to the poop.
We're gonna get into poop later. I mean, if you want to jump into the poopy,
like the worst segue for this conversation.
It wasn't really worse. I mean, it really could you get better?
We'll come back to the poop. Let her finish the story, and we'll come back to the poop.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, it's one of those things where I think it's the best thing I've ever done. It's the best thing I've ever taught. It is the hardest. It is the most frustrating. It is the thing I feel least successful with many times, because when you have kids who make games that they're not happy with at the end, it's really hard for them to see success as incremental, especially when you have students like mine who are in the gifted program. Many times they don't have to struggle as much in their other classes. So when I give them this gift of struggling through something and not being happy with it and having to continuously work on it, you know, it's a whole new world for some of them. And it's really hard for some of them to learn how to shift their thinking and see success that way. And that's really tough. But that's the worst of it. The best of it is so much more, you know, as far as, I mean, I get to play games a lot, you know, teach games a lot. but even just seeing kids like get excited about ideas and, I think I want to try this, and just that process of making and creating something and play testing it and watching them have fun play testing their games with other people, it's so fun to see. So, and they make something. And when we share them on BGG, like they put something out there into the world. It's not just a school project. And when people from BGG comment and ask questions, I'm on BGG's Funk Donut. You can look up all my geek list of student game projects. There's almost over 500 now after so many semesters. So that's a lot of games, that's a lot of ideas and stuff put out there. And that's super, super cool. And I'm so proud of them, for all the hard work they do. So I'm really lucky and fortunate that I've just stumbled my way into this, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, Erica, you want to start off the questioning? It doesn't have to be about poop. It can be.
Well, no, I thought, because especially since this is obviously, we want to highlight a new designer, is because Kathleen has a game coming. And so it's always fun to hear the process of where do these games come from? What stage are they in right now? And we'll especially talk to you about how have they changed, and then hopefully what the future is, because obviously once the first game's coming, it often leads to new things. So I think that'll be a good segue into what is the first game and where
you
did
mean
it come
Suppository wasn't a good segue? You sure? I thought it was awesome.
We'll let people vote online on whether that was a good one later.
Okay, so Kathleen, tell us the first name of the game, the second name of the game, and the third name of the game, because this game has like 4 names in my mind, because I've seen it in all iterations.
Sure. So the first name of the game was Dirty Birdie, and the inspiration for this game was a Girl Scout song. Oh, I wish I was a little dirty birdie, dirty birdie. Oh, I wish I was a little dirty birdie, dirty birdie. I go up on the steeple and poop on the people. Oh, I wish I was a little dirty birdie. And then I thought, in my goofy, perverse mind, I thought, wouldn't it be funny if there was a game where you were birds and people were the targets? And so I thought about it, and then I ended up making a 3-dimensional board where there's all these building rooftops of different heights, and you had flocks of pigeons, and you would fly your pigeons around and drop poop cubes onto tiles, and the tiles had people, cars, and umbrellas. Umbrellas are bad. And you're trying to just basically hit as many targets and score as many points as possible. And what I liked about the game too is, so after everyone had their pigeon turns, then there was a falcon, and it was on this big rod, and you would use the falcon to like slide down and knock each other's pigeons off. So it was a really good balancing mechanism, because if somebody was running away with the game, well, then attack their pigeons, because you get points for hitting their pigeons, and plus then they've got less pigeons on the board and less points at the end for their pigeons too. And so anyway, so it was so fun. And I mean, I loved showing it, like at BGG speed dating, when I put it out there at the end of the speed dating event, like everyone was gathered around my table, and different publishers were explaining to people, like to other publishers who were there who hadn't seen it, like how to play my game, So I mean, like as far as like impact, it was huge, but they also, when they would sit down with me, they would just see this like world of components. And they were just like, oh, God. So it was more like they knew they were going to enjoy that 7 minutes talking with me, but it wasn't necessarily feasible. But then over time, like it finally got to a point where it sat on the shelf for like 2 years, because, you show it to lots of people and they're like, it's funny. It's a funny game. It is a game, but, the manufacturing. And so when my good friend Travis Chance announced that he was starting Kolassal and he was looking for big, splashy, Kickstarter-friendly games, I sent him a message and I said, hey, I have a big, splashy, Kickstarter-friendly game. And so he's like, okay. So at Dice Tower, not this year, but last, I took the game down, and it was funny because we play tested it. At one point, he looked at me, he's like, God damn it, Kathleen. I'm like, yeah, because it's good. So in the end, they ended up signing it, but we changed the title, or changed the theme from pigeons and poop to dragons. Now, in my heart, it's, dragon droppings, they're just on fire this time. You know what I mean? Like they're throwing something at you, it's kind of sticky, kind of stinky maybe. But it changed the dragons because, and I thought this was a good point. Like the pigeons might be kind of a gimmick, but with the dragons, we could actually make like scenarios, kind of like not necessarily legacy, but a scenario-based game of different configurations, especially with modular components on the board. And And yeah, and I thought it was a good one. And it's funny because people have been like, I really like the pigeon theme. You should have like stuck your heels in the ground. And it's like, yeah, remember how I said there were like 2-3 years where I showed the game and people turned it down. And so when I've got somebody who wants to make it, but they're like dragons, I'm like, dragons, we'll make this work. And it was a big change. So then it became Dirty Dragons. That's name number 2. It became Dirty Dragons, and this is sort of like a placeholder name. And then this summer, when I was at the Kolassal offices and we were working on it for a couple of days with Chris Ham, that one of their developers, who's amazing. Chris is great. And because I just want to put as many different types of dexterity actions in the game. And there's still the swoop, there's still where you drop things, but there's where you flick things. There's any kind of like physical way I could let people attack. Like I wanted to put all those in. And so I was laughing about like in different scenarios and what could they be and what kind of configurations. And I said, oh, we need one called Ragnarok, because this summer, I watched very little TV. I traveled a lot, but I watched Thor Ragnarok like 5 times. And it's just so funny to me. And I love that movie. And I was like, we need one, like a move called Ragnarok, where like your last thing you do is you drop your dragon on the game. You know, like when you're out of fire, you're out of everything, your last like finishing move is like a mic drop with dragons. And so I was like, Ragnarok. And he looked at me, he's like, I think that's the title of your game. And I was like, I think it is too, because literally your dragons burning this village and all these so-called heroes who've been trampling your rights and your autonomy. So it's Ragnarok. Like we're basically the dragons are striking back. So title number 3 is Ragnarok. And then of course people are like, it should be Drag Queen Dragons. And while I love that, and maybe there will be a nod here or there to, you know, some of my favorites like Sharon Needles or Bianca Del Rio, I don't think we're going totally in the drag queen angle.
That's a different game.
Yeah,
I would play it for the record.
Yeah, right. Very cool, very cool. And so that is a very big, giant, component-heavy, Kickstarter-friendly game that's coming to Kickstarter when? What do you think?
It's probably 2020, I think, at this point. You know, I mean, because there's a lot of things that need to be dealt with in terms of, you know, whenever you've got a dexterity game, it's all about components and very specific components. And so it will, and I've worked really hard to make the components not too crazy in terms of like things that are super unique, but, you know, so like standard cube sizes, you know, trying all of that. But still like there's different components and making the cost. And, you know, I don't think people will want to buy a $300 dragon scenario based game. It'd be funny to like mine's next to Gloomhaven. You know what I mean?
Well, it needs a box about the same size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. What do you want to play, Gloomhaven or this thing where we throw stuff around? Throw stuff. So anyway, so yeah, so we'll see. I think 2020 is where we're leaning now.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah,
And what else are you working on? You had a couple games that I know were in consideration and they've come back to you through various channels. And what game are you most excited about that hasn't been signed, that you are ready? And you know, if somebody's watching today, there might be a publisher watching us right now. What would you tell them, Kathleen?
So the one that I've got like one that's kind of like a secret project that I can't really talk too much about, but I'm super hopeful that goes somewhere. But my other one is one that we originally called Kessel Run. But apparently I didn't know this, but like Star Wars is kind of a thing. And
this is Star Wars nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, it's only Star Trek for me. Just kidding. I think I've seen like 2 Star Trek episodes. I'm gonna turn in my geek card. I'm sorry, everyone. So anyway, so we called it Kessel Run. It's like a crazy little, you know, do terrible things to other people and, you know, blow up if you hit asteroids and all that other stuff. And that was one that we signed, but we actually got the rights to it back. And so what I really love about this was, and then the name is now Crash Course. And that's suitable to change, you know, depending. I've obviously demonstrated that I'm flexible with some things. But what I really love about that is, you know, there are parts of the game that we designed and we're just part of like, okay, this is what's in the game and people will deal with it more or less. It's kind of a clumsy way, but basically it's true. And then we thought about it, or you know, like, especially after we got the game back, we played it. And we played it with some different designers and people who hadn't seen it before. And there's all these things where it's like, we just sort of accepted this as being part of it. But wait, this is actually this could be tightened up. This could be cleaned up quite a bit, you know? And so it's like just taking this game that we super happy with, and I still like have fun playing every time I play it, which I think is a good thing. But trying to like take this game apart and what does it really need to be, and how can we streamline this so there's basically to eliminate a lot of rules that were, you know, elaborate in terms of explaining what should the rules should not take as long as this game should take, you know. And so really trying to like tighten up the game to where it is. But what I love about it, it's a circular board with converging and diverging little lanes, and then there's other things like portals and a few nods to other games like Merchant of Venus and some other stuff on there. But what I love about it too is it's modular, that you would place different pie-shaped wedges on it. It's kind of like Suro-ish. Suro, you don't overlap anything, but this one you will because it's circular. And so the board is always different, always changes. And there's lots of things that affect where you move on your turn, so you can't do too much pre-planning. So when, you know, people change the board when it's your turn, and the like for movement, it's a press your luck system in terms of how many dice you want to use to determine how far you can go. And so really, really fun. I mean, even like in the original version, the one that we sold had player elimination, and that's completely gone. But player elimination added attention that we thought the game needed. And so then trying to figure out how can we have it where we don't have to have it, but it still maintains that like tense, fun, fast, crazy kind of race game. So I've been really excited to work on development I've ever done like on one game. And it's just been such a really great learning process in terms of what is this? What does it need to be? But most importantly, what is the experience other people are having? And how do I listen to them and figure out what's the right thing to incorporate and try? And we try a lot of different things. So I'm hoping for that one when I'm at BGG that I'll be able to start showing that one. Originally, I was going to just start showing it right away after we got the game back. But then within just a couple plays with some people, I was like, nope, it's better we do this the right way and make the game better, tighter. And so I'm really like, it's been a really interesting journey with this game for sure. It started off as luggage on a conveyor belt at the airport. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to go with
turn
it
into
sometimes.
spaceships, and now is it still spaceships or is it cars?
It's still spaceships. Yeah, it's still spaceships. You're sort of like basically space gladiators racing around for the entertainment of, you know, these galactic overlords watching you as you're trying not to crash into the black hole, you know, things like that.
I get it. Yeah. Cool.
It's always interesting when you get to have a fresh look at something, because the funny thing is you have to put something down for a while or have no thought about it at all so that you can come back and go, what was I thinking? Or like, oh my God, I totally forgot that. I love it.
Right. You know, and or sometimes too, it's like you put down, you're like, wow, this is like, there's times where it's like, this is better than I thought it was, you know, and that's good. Like you know, because you're so like, I mean, I was talking about this with somebody last night. Game design means I'm going to, you know, I am going to decide, I'm going to make something and I'm going to struggle, fail. And I don't see it as a bad way. Failure, you have to see failure as a good thing, you know, otherwise you're just going to be a sad clown through the whole thing. But, you know, just that learning process can be frustrating because there are times you get a game pretty far and you realize you just can't get it there, you know? So, it's been really, really good to have that experience of having these fresh lights, because I don't have that many games, you know what I mean? But I've been lucky that the 2 games that I've really like worked on, like start to finish, you know, are ones that, you know, have gotten signed or interest or whatever, you know? So I think that's good. You know, it's confidence boosting, but it also means there's a lot of times where it's like, I'm like, I call myself amateur plus, and I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with that. I will never design a Euro.
I think you're more than that.
Well, you know, but I'm not trying to be like,
we all have different kinds of games. You don't have to be an expert at every kind of game.
God, because if I made a Euro, gosh, I don't even know.
Like, you don't even want to wrap your brain around that.
It would be ridiculous. It'd be like a 3-hour long game about like candy corn or something like that, you know, which if you got to eat the candy corn, that'd be cool. But, you know.
Except nobody eats candy corn, Kathleen.
Oh, I meant to say Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes, thank you.
We
don't eat candy corn at Thanksgiving in Canada. I'm not sure what other Canadians might have told you. Like, Daryl is totally lying to you, but Just so you know.
It's not the first time. Daryl lies a lot. I will say it right now. Daryl Andrews. By the way, Sagrada, get it in place near you.
Get it in stores. And they have a Kickstarter. Go back to Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him. Splendid. No, hi Daryl. Hi Pumpkin. He's so great. Daryl honestly has been such a great, huge supporter. He's been really, really because we worked on Crash Course a lot together. So I can't say anything but amazing, wonderful things about what a great person he's been in terms of introducing me to people and working with me and having fun with me and all kinds of other stuff. So no, Daryl, you're great. I'm sorry I called you a liar.
They can both be true.
No, well, and so the thing is I think that yeah, I wish American Thanksgiving was where Canadian Thanksgiving was, because like as a teacher, it's like right in between the quarters, and we get it's the whole thing. But that's boring for anybody else. So I'll drop that. But yeah.
No, it's totally okay. So just to say hi to everybody who's on the feed. Let's say hi to Jamie Boucher, Travis Magrum, Ming DT, Eric Slauson, Andrew Wolf, Robert Johnson. We've got a bunch of people in there, and they're asking you a question, Kathleen. Jamie asks.
Hi, Jamie.
Right. Jamie asks you, what conventions are you, and everybody really, going to for the rest of 2018? And she wants to know if she can play games with you.
I would love to play games with you because Jamie, I love your energy and your spunk. I would love to. Yes. So I'm a teacher, and so summers are like free for all for me. You know what I mean? I can like if it's in the summer, I can figure out a way to go, provided I have money. But separate issue. During the school year, it's tougher. So this year I'm doing the last ones I have are Board Game Geek. We got BGG Con. I was going to go to PAX, but instead I'm making a trip to see a friend. So I had to drop PAX, which was a real bummer because I really wanted to go to that one, but there's only so much because I just can't take off that much time. And even to go to a con, like to get on a plane Friday night, it's really kind of just tough to do like that kind of quick. And so then I'm doing that. And then in Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, we're doing Geekway Mini here in St. Louis. And I'm going to be going to that one too. And I think that's it up until Geekway Prime at the end of May. So if you're coming to BGG, yes, let's totally play games.
So sorry, my phone was off. My mic was off. What date is that for those of us who are Canadian and do not necessarily get to celebrate MLK Day?
Yeah, we don't.
Though we'd probably like to.
You know what? I thought about that after I said Memorial Day. I'm sorry. Okay, for the record, my fellow Canadians, I have gone to a Boxing Day party in Windsor, Ontario,
Woo-hoo!
And I will say that I know the difference between blue and red, and I played left, center, right with toonies, and I won, and they were mad because it racked up to be quite a bit of money when you're playing with toonies. So I love tortilla, spiced French pork pie. I love that. So delicious. My friend Jody here, she's Canadian, and she introduced me to that. So, and obviously, look at me. I love poutine. So hello to Canada.
Okay.
What was the question?
Jamie is giving me the actual answer. She's saying it's January 21st, Sen.
That's why Jamie is a good friend.
That is.
Thank you, Jamie. Yes.
She's like totally wingmanning you from like the other side of the country. This is awesome.
That's what the internet's for, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, and Jamie is awesome. We've had her on the show before. She is an amazing fount of knowledge and she's a wonderful person.
Yes.
So BGG Con for you, not PAX Unplugged. Metatopia is not on your radar, and then next,
I would love to go to Metatopia. Love. But it's just really, really hard to get away. I have 3 personal days that I can use. Sometimes they let me take professional development days, but at the end of the day, all of those days are days I'm out of the classroom away from my kids. There's a benefit because what game conventions for me, unlike most people, really are professional development. Like I learned so much, but it's just really hard to be out of the classroom that much. I mean, I'm out next week for 4 days going to the North American I'm going to the North America Simulation and Gaming Association next week where I'm getting a keynote. So maybe I should mention
that's
that.
Cool. Yeah.
So that one.
Oh yeah, the thing next week. Yeah, maybe I should mention that one.
All amateur pluses go keynote at. so funny,
I,
Kathleen.
well, I mean, I'm not trying to be falsely humble. I just feel
No,
like
I think it's a little bit of an imposter syndrome.
no, it's not. No,
Okay,
I
good.
don't.
Okay.
No, I don't have So the funny thing is, I contribute to Our Turn, and we did an episode on imposter syndrome, and they needed a second host, and I said, well, I don't really have that. I just do stuff, and I'm an optimist, and I'm assuming it's going to work out, and even if it doesn't work out the way I want it to, I assume I'll figure out another way to do it. It's just my just happy-go-lucky whatever self. And so like, no, that's actually great, you can come on and talk about like what it's like not to have imposter syndrome. And I was like, okay, cool. But then this summer when I was asked to present at the Tabletop Network
Mm-hmm.
the game designers conference that
Down in Utah.
Tim Fowers put on,
Yeah.
and then I was like, it was so funny because it was right after that imposter syndrome podcast, and I was asked, I'm like, holy crap, I got to present to game designers. I'm like, well, I have imposter syndrome now.
That's pretty funny.
Okay.
I mean, it's not
Yeah,
funny, but
so
it's humorous.
Oh, it was. No, I mean, you have to laugh. No, I just feel like I'm learning, and I feel like there's just so many things that I'm trying to do that sometimes it means I don't get to dig in hard on one thing to do it well, where I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people, just kind of spread in so many areas, and so that's okay. We make choices, and I'm super happy with all the things I get to do, but it means that, I'm okay with being very much in the I'm learning, trying to get as much out of this as possible thing. So that's all.
I think that being a lifelong learner is a state of, not being happy. Being a lifelong learner is a state of not having imposter syndrome in a lot of ways. I think, anyways. I mean, I don't have it. I've never had it, but I'm always constantly learning and constantly trying to be better at what I'm doing. Um, and I think in that alone, I never think I'm the expert. Although I have expertise, I'm not an expert. If you get what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah. And likewise, like if I've learned something, I'm super happy to share what I've learned. But like even with my students, I tell them I'm wrong all the time. I'm learning things all the time. I will share like a Google Doc with them that they have to use and fill out, and then I will make changes to the original, and then I will make them like get the new version and put all like reconcile the two. And they look at me. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to be as best as I can, and sometimes it comes a little late. And they're like, that's okay, because if I make mistakes and acknowledge them, and but they know me, they respect me, they trust me, if I can model for them that you can make mistakes publicly and it's not the worst thing because it's all about getting better. I mean, there's definitely an intentional aspect to that when I'm trying to model that for my kids, and it's not a fake thing. It's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm such a perfectionist. It's like, no, I am literally screwing up right in front of you, and I could do this better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I'm sure Eric and I do the same thing. I mean, I tell my students, hey,
all the
if I
time.
mess up on a test, come and talk to me and I'll change it for the whole class
right,
because I messed up, not you. And they know that. And sometimes they do, and it benefits the whole class. I
right,
just want them to come talk to me. That's all I care about. Come talk.
right,
Come talk. I
right,
want you to
Yeah.
engage with me rather than just me
right.
like talk at you. So,
Yeah,
anyways.
we talk a lot about how actually making mistakes is how you learn the most.
Mhm.
So usually the things you remember is the mistake you made, and you'll always remember what to do about that one thing. But it's funny that those are the ones that stand out the most for us.
Oh yeah, totally. And then like learning how to process that, and like I said, for my students, it can be earth shaking and like make them question themselves because they've only had 13, 12 years on this planet. And so when you put like a label like gifted on them, which has a lot of positive qualities, it's a label and it's got some negatives. And they only have how many years of something for them to learn like what this looks like in a healthy, supportive way.
Hmm. Yeah, one day I'd love to talk to you about giftedness and just the kind of overall psychological effects the label has on a person who is gifted, because there's lots of studies that talk about the
Oh yeah.
positives, but also the negatives, and
Oh
that
yeah.
idea
For sure.
of failure.
Hmm.
It's haunted me since I was a kid. Since
Hmm.
it's a long, long time. That
Yeah.
it's not that I dislike failure. It's that I won't let myself fail, and by not letting myself fail, I don't do things where I'd ever risk perfection. right?
I
So
think a lot of people hold themselves back, even just in general, because taking that leap means you might fail. But funny enough, not doing it also is failing.
right,
But we
you
don't
totally
seem to
failed
think
'cause
of
you
it that way because you didn't do anything. But it's
Yeah.
funny how we're more comfortable with that type of failure. It's, I don't know. I always find it fascinating.
So we have another question. Eric Slauson
Okay.
asks Kathleen, who's also a teacher, by the way, Eric. Kathleen, what is a game that you consider one of your design inspirations? Like you want to be able to do something that cool one day, or it made you realize, what games could possibly be. So what is that for you, Kathleen?
I've talked about this in other episodes of different shows, and it's funny because there's so many games that I know and I love, but for me, the absolute game for me that represents everything I would want to make in a game is Survive Escape from Atlantis. I love everything about the game. It's got a modular board of island pieces, and as you play, everyone's got a big clump of people. Water surrounding the islands, sharks appear and whales appear and sea monsters are there, and so you're trying to navigate all these things, and do I take an action to push my guys closer to the island, or do I get on this island to sabotage somebody else? And the game has a very visible clock because as the tiles dwindle, the game is getting closer to the end. But everything about the game thematically, mechanically is so woven, so intertwined, where sharks eat people but not boats. Well, everybody knows that. Whales sink boats, but they don't eat people. Everybody knows that. And sea monsters destroy everything, but they're big and slow. Everybody knows these things. So like thematically, mechanically, the game is just so well intermeshed with it. It's fun. It is the game that I use with students who have a hard time with losing, because you start off with like 8, 9, 10 people, and so you lose a lot of them. You're lucky if you get 4, maybe 5 guys to the island. If you get 5 to the islands, like that was like a really good game. You probably will win, but not necessarily, because the view's on the bottom. So even then there's some uncertainty. But, for kids who have trouble losing games, you lose so many people and you take out so many other people's people that, like with my nieces and nephews, who are really having trouble, this whole
Oh,
take somebody's throat.
oh, that's amazing.
You sound like music.
So
sorry, your screen keeps freezing, and when you do, it was making this tinny noise, and it just hit a high note that sounded like you were making music.
Yeah, it's like you were vocoded or something. It was awesome.
It was crazy. Sorry, continue.
I have the voice of an angel.
You totally do,
Hello,
Kathleen.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Yeah. So I would say Survive. And the one thing that's kind of funny is, like, especially like on Facebook, it's probably one of the main ways that people kind of connect with other industry. But Julia, the designer of Survive, sent me a friend request, and I was like, I have done it. I have made it in this world when the designer of my favorite game. Like, so I was like sending a message like, and I don't really know me, but like I love Survive and I think it's so great. And he's like, well, Kathleen, are you going to S? And I'm like, no, because it's in the studio. But anyway, that was like, honestly, like for me, that was like kind of a great, probably random, but a really great moment.
Yeah. No,
that's awesome. That's like life goal unlocked. That's great.
Yeah, right? Achievement unlocked. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So for us, I think I'm at Shucks this weekend. That may be my last con of the year. Just because I was supposed to be on a panel at PAX, but it's on a Friday and I teach until 3 o'clock on Fridays, so it's like, well, I can't be there by then, and I have an 8 o'clock class on Monday morning, so I'm flying out. I end my class at 3 o'clock. The college is 2 minutes away from the airport. I board my plane at 4. I fly to Vancouver. And I game, and design, and role play, and run some panels, and then I fly out on Sunday night. I roll off the plane, get into my classroom, teach for 2 hours, go home, and then design games with Jesse, because Jesse's back in Canada for a bit, and then I might actually die.
Yeah, and this is why Sen falls asleep in the weirdest places ever.
I do. So on that note, that may be my last con of the season because I am getting old and I don't know if I can hack it anymore. No, really,
You
it
need
is
downtime.
well, it's partly that, but it's also the same reason as
Aren't you
Kathleen.
like 24 years old?
I look like I'm 12. I look like one of your students, I'm sure. No, I'm way older than that. And one of the things that is the same for Kathleen is the same for Erica and myself. As teachers, you know, being away from our students, even though my students are like twice the age of your students, I still don't like to be away from them.
No.
I don't, I don't, I don't feel good just giving them, oh, here's an assignment and do some research on your own.
Yeah.
I don't
Next
like
week
that.
I'm gone for 4 days, and I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning, 3:30, worried about what am I going to do? Like, because in October with my 8th grade, we do cosplay. And so I've got all these students in my classes, each working on their Halloween costumes. And it sounds goofy, but the amount of planning, execution, and learning that goes with if you want to learn how to fiberglass a helmet, well, you've got to learn a whole lot in how you're going to do that. So how you're going to make molded armor out of EVA foam, like all these different things, like because they want to be those characters so badly. I have had students do more work for me in this one cosplay unit than anything else I throw at them, bar none.
That's
and
awesome.
So yeah. Oh no, it's like the secret, like stealth, like
well, I've seen pictures from like last year and the year before, and they were amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like last year. Yeah. Yes. And I get all into it too. Like I go big, I make one too,
I wouldn't have pictured you doing that.
Well, I'll share some pictures you guys can show. My favorite though is when I did Colonel Mustard. No, that's not my favorite. There's some other ones, but when I did Colonel Mustard and I showed, it's like, yeah, I look like my Uncle Don. Hi, Uncle Don, by the way. But yeah. Because I had like a white beard and mustache and a pith helmet and glasses, so people didn't know it was me, until they heard my voice. That was fun. But anyway, yeah, being gone from them really is tough. So, today I sent out an email to all my families saying I'm going to be gone for 4 days. So it's like 4 hours of time with me. So I'm going in on Sunday from noon until 4. It's optional, but your kids can come in and we will work on their costumes. And my sister is coming to town, and she used to be a clown with Ringling Brothers. And
that is so amazing.
Oh yeah. But like construction, like her Halloween costumes for her kids are spectacular, insanely great.
Is that like a Ringling Brothers like skill?
Well, I mean, she worked for a puppeteering company here in St. Louis called Bob Kramer's.
Cool.
Yeah, and she quilts, so she can sew anything, So she's even going to come in because she's in town, and so like help my kids. And then she's like, "Well, hey, I can work on my kids' costumes too, whatever." So
now I want to come.
I know, so do I.
It's so fun. It's so fun. It's so much hard work, but it's so worth it because this year I'm going to be Animal from the Muppets, but as a princess.
That's right. You made a change. Very cool.
Yeah. I was going to be Mojo Jojo, but I wasn't so excited about like what I was going to make. And then a lot of kids don't know who Mojo Jojo is, which makes me super sad. But especially since I work in a school, it has to be something that kids will recognize. Otherwise, they're like, "What are you?" So generally speaking,
Colonel Mustard.
A whole group of us. One is Clue characters.
Oh, everybody went as Clue. Okay.
You need the rest of the what was it? The Mayhem. What's their
Dr.
name?
T?
Magic Mayhem, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, like Janice.
Janice,
yeah. Janice is the best.
Janice was
awesome.
The best. I know.
Just get some yarn.
Yeah. Oh no. And I always try to like say, I'm not going to spend more than $100. So then it's going to be like, okay, right. I've already spent over 2. So it's time, because it just like, it adds up. I need orange gloves. And I found a place that sells giant novelty drumsticks. So I'm going to have one of those as like my princess scepter. You know what I mean?
I see. So Travis says it's Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
I knew there was a mayhem in there somewhere.
Yes. Well, you could be Dr. Teeth.
Yeah, right.
Right. Or you could be Janice.
I can be Janice. I would be, if I would choose, I'd be Rolf. That's just me.
Yeah.
That was my funny.
You get to wear like what are those the name for those the Japanese name for those big fleece bodysuits? You can just wear pajamas all day long. Oh yeah, look at me.
I'd be a furry.
I'm playing the piano like Ralph does. It's cool. Costume.
It's funny. So, hey, tell us a little bit about where you live in St. Louis. Not your house or anything like that, but I mean like St. Louis. And St. Louis is slowly becoming a little hub of game design, a little hub of gaming.
It is. You know, there's some really great game companies here. Gray Fox is here. Stonemeyer Games is here. We have Genius Games is here. Miniature Market is here. They've got a little kind of some of the guys from Miniature Market formed Gateway Games. They're here. There's a lot of game designers here who are getting stuff out there. So yeah, it's actually really, really good. And what I think is important, like my friend Royce Banuelos. Hey Royce, he's awesome. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of people who are really, really active, enthusiastic, and supportive of and making things happen in terms of like gaming events, meetup events, you know, game design events at like the local board game cafe Pieces, which is here, which is great. So yeah, and well, it's funny too because J.R. Honeycutt, who's a really well-known prolific developer, he was looking for a change of scenery, and I was like, "Come to St. Louis, you know, it's awesome. There's all kinds of, you know, game design people here. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Greater Than Games is here, Sentinels of the Multiverse, and all that. So oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Because good friends.
You go to game night there.
Yes. Sorry. So anyway, so yeah, so there's I'm so sorry. Well, this is a Canadian show, so I don't apologize for something. But I said sorry. I don't say sorry. Because I'm not Dan Aykroyd. But every time though.
Hey, so speaking of Canada, why were you in Windsor?
So my ex-husband's family was from Detroit.
Okay.
And so they made good friends over. And so we would go over there for Boxing Day parties and stuff like that. And they were, oh my gosh, let me tell you, like, one of my favorite documentaries is called Murder Ball. It's about Canada's quad rugby team. And I love that so much. And it's like, this is something that could happen in Canada where you take, you know, people who are, you know, paraplegics, quadriplegics, build wheelchairs that are battering rams, and then they play rugby like on a basketball court, and they're not joking around, like, you know.
Oh no, that is serious business.
Yeah, but they had to change the name to quad rugby because weird murder ball just wasn't deemed as okay by the Paralympic Committee. You know,
it might have been okay in America though.
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, murder ball in America is different, unfortunately. But so anyway, so yeah, so it was fun. And so anyway, but like that to me is like, if I'm allowed to stereotype, just like fun sense of humor and gonna go for it kind of people. You know what I mean? Like all the people I met were really, really fun, and you know, whatever. I have nothing bad at all to say about Canadians. It is weird, like when you cross the river though, because you're like, it looks like you're in the same place, but then there's like things where you're like, this is a different country. Like the first time, you know, like
there are no ads for like shotguns and ammo, and there are no ads for like big adult entertainment places by the roadside.
Well, that's your problem, not ours. We got that.
Yeah. So I just wondered because, you know, I'm about like 2 hours away from Windsor. So why are you in Windsor? And you should come visit if you're in Windsor more often. But
I'll be in Rochester next week, so I can wave at you.
Yeah,
come
you can wave.
Toronto. This is so much better. So much better.
Well, how far away is Toronto from Rochester?
It's actually not too far. Toronto, Rochester is probably like, I want to say 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say 4.
Yeah.
That's a real expensive Uber.
It really is. It really is.
No, you're not doing that.
And I mean, like, we're cool and all that, but not that. We're not uber cool.
We're not that
cool. Will blow my poutine budget.
Yeah, I would buy you a lot of poutine.
That's a lot.
I will tell you, other than Montreal, we probably have like the next highest like rated poutine. So
yeah, well, and I just want to say for the record too, for every Canadian who's rolling their eyes at me right now, please understand. I think you're more than just a collection of as Paul Roxley said today, friends with benefits. He's like
he did. He said, all my Canadian friends are friends with benefits.
Yeah. And Americans are like,
yeah. Well,
sad.
Oh God. Well, my sister lives in Germany, which is like, you know, people are like, you know, talking. well, that's a whole other discussion.
Yes,
Anyway,
that's a whole thing that we thought we wouldn't talk
yes,
about.
Canadians, I
So
love your rich culture and everything you bring to the table. Thank you.
tortillas and poutine.
Yes.
But
Let's. So actually, another one of the conventions that Erica and I will be at is a very small one, but it's Board Game Base Camp in early January. So right after New Year's,
Yeah.
Daryl,
pajama party.
yeah, pretty much we stay in our pajamas for 3 days, and
Play games.
What
play
are the
games.
dates for it?
It's always the first weekend of January, I think.
It's early but late this year. It's this weird time where it's not after school starts. So it's this weird time in between New Year's and when school starts, which is very rare. So it's kind of this mystical unicorn of timing for us this year.
Yeah.
That's good.
Otherwise, I'm aiming for PAX this year too.
Oh, are you? Good.
Yeah. So I'm not doing anything between then and now because life. But
yeah. So shucks for me, and then maybe Metatopia, maybe PAX Unplugged.
So we're not going to see each other at all.
No, not till the big major ones next year. But I am super planning on coming to Geekway because I super enjoyed myself last time.
Good.
And this time, my friends who live in St. Louis may actually come. They are ridiculous. They're like, "What do you mean there's a game convention?" I said, "Yeah, it's in your backyard, Matt."
Right.
What do you mean there's a game? Brian, it's in your city.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and these are guys who went to Gen Con for the first time 3 years ago. So, I mean, granted, they're not like super into the scene yet, but they love games. They love games, and so it's very weird.
And honestly, I think that's like indicative of the fact that the hobby has grown from being like clusters of people kind of in the know, that as gaming is sort of spilled out more into the mainstream isn't necessarily aware of like things that kind of start out as niche club kind of things. Like if you played games in St. Louis, chances are you knew the other people who played games in St. Louis and would then go to Geekway in its earlier iterations. You know what I mean? Because like the St. Louis meetup group was kind of like the place you could go to like learn about and play games. But like going, like when I went to Pieces the Game Cafe the other night, one of the teachers I work with was there, and I didn't know she was a gamer. But that's the thing too, is like, it's not necessarily gamer as an identity isn't necessarily like people are just play games. You know what I mean? It is a facet of their life.
It's entertainment again, not just a way of life per se.
Yeah, so
look at me, the lifestyle behind me.
On their chest that I am a supreme nerd. This is like a very it's a geeky shirt. And then there are people who just go and play games. And it's funny because Kathleen and I figured out that my friend's brother works with her at school. He's the IT guy at your school. And that was just weird. It's like, this is a weird last name, and that's a weird last name, and they must know each other. Oh, they're brothers.
Right. And and I've yelled at Carl about going to Geekway like 18,000 times. Like, you can only do so much. So,
we'll drag him out this year because I'll drag Matt, and Matt will drag Carl, and it'll all work. It'll all
work out. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Matt. Excuse me. So let's see. What else is there to talk about? We've got like 5 minutes left.
Well, I'd say
awesome Kathleen Mercury with us. What else can we talk about, Erica?
I have a couple things, resources I want to throw out for people.
Do throw.
Yeah, here it is. So I teach game design, as we've talked about before, to kids. And I have a website, KathleenMercury.com. I want to make sure people are aware of this. I put all of my game design resources on there for free. I take no advertising. I don't take games from publishers necessarily. I never request them, that's for sure. Because if I don't know that I can get it on the table, then I don't want it. Because I'm not going to just take things for free for myself ultimately, you know what I mean? But anyway, so it's like semester plus of work, everything from a week or two where you want to do a game design thing or you want to try out doing some game design stuff, all the way through like full semesters worth of stuff. Everything is on there and it's all for free. So I want to make sure people are aware of that. The other thing is I just started working with an organization here called meeplesforpeoples.com, and Peoples is spelled with three E's. So Peeples.
MEEPLES.
Meeples for Peoples. And people's like I'm peeping you. Yes.
PEEE.
No. Sorry, I meant because there's 3 E's total. PEEPLES. That's why I said 3 E's.
.com, .org.
Remember the part when I said I mess up all the time? This is one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, .com. Meeplesforpeoples.com.
Okay.
And what they do is they collect games and then they send them out. Either brand new games go to people to give as gifts, like, so a lot of shelters in the area, they will give those so that people can give gifts of brand new games. But like used games, they'll take, they go through them, make sure everything's there, replace any lost pieces, and those will go to schools and libraries, because trust me, when you have games in schools and libraries, they'll see some wear. And so I just started working with them, and they have hundreds of games, but they are desperately in need of funds for shipping, because everybody knows shipping is expensive. So if people are looking for a nonprofit to donate some money to, or even if you've got games too, because gosh knows we'll take those as well, check out meeplesforpeoples.com, because I think it's really great. I went through my classroom and I have so many games. I mean, 300 something plus, like ridiculous. And there's just games that have been sitting there unopened that I know haven't been played in 5 years or more. So I just packed up like 2 big IKEA bags full of games and donated them, and if you donate games, there's a deduction too, of course, and all that other stuff. But I just did it because if they're not going to be played with me, I want somebody to be able to play them. So Meeple's started as a nonprofit, but they're a great resource. I think people should check out and try to help if they can.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. It's a great resource. Erica, do we have a last minute question for the last 2 minutes of this conversation?
Yeah, I was going to say, if Kathleen wants to talk about maybe anything fun coming down the pipe in the future, or kind of fun things that at least, everyone likes to hear, like either what's next or kind of what's happened to you because you got the game coming out. So maybe opportunities you can approach about.
Well, there's something I'm waiting to hear about in a couple days that I can't talk about, and that would be an IP. So I can't really talk too much about that. So we'll see. But there's, I just did sign yesterday my very first non-disclosure agreement. So I felt very fancy printing off all of those pages and looking through and going like, I think I'm going to mess this up. I don't know what I'm doing.
I just sign things, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, just sign.
But anyway, but it's not for to make a game, but it's obviously related to what I do and stuff. And that's a super exciting project that I don't know what I can talk about because I'm so new to all this NDA stuff. But
don't talk about anything right here, right now. Don't.
So anyway, what I'm excited that I've got some different kinds of things coming down in the pipeline in a very oblique, mysterious way, of things that I care very much about, and that I'm going to hopefully that I'm going to have a hand in putting out there, so that other people and teachers and everyone can do more with games in the classroom. So super excited.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited. That's great.
I think that's what people want to hear. They just want to hear that, even if you don't have details, it's just like, oh yeah, more fun things are coming.
Yeah, like when I can talk about it, I won't shut up.
Well,
welcome back. Whenever you're done,
you can talk about it. Come on back on the show.
Yeah. I'm super excited.
You.
Super
and we'll
excited.
talk about whatever it is, and we'll find other guests who are doing similar things and tie that up all in a nice little maple syrup bow. Yeah.
Perfect.
You want to ask the last question there, Erica?
Yes. So we always ask people if they were going to give one piece of advice, what would it be? And it could be anything you'd like.
So I recently, 3 years ago, turned 40. Painful. I did not want to turn 40. 27, I had a hard time with because it meant I wasn't going to die a rock star, which I was still okay with because that meant I wasn't dead. But,
it's good not to be dead.
Yeah, it's good not to be dead. That's really my advice. No, the main thing is, the thing that I've really tried to embrace in my 40s is, if someone else is doing a job that I don't want to do, I can't do, or I'm not doing, I'm not going to tell them how to do it. And that's kind of been like, especially being a teacher, you kind of get used to not necessarily like hand over hand, but here, let me show you, or whatever else, but really trying, especially if it's somebody else who is like a colleague or something, who is doing something in a way that I would not do, but then again, do I want that job? No, I do not. Then it is time for me to take a step back. And that's been a really, I think, good, healthy way for me to just stay focused on the things that I need to focus on and let other people figure out and try to solve their own problems, because ultimately, for me to try to take that away from them is kind of jerky anyway. So they're their own active autonomous agent. I'm my own active autonomous agent. And I think I'm happier
I think
for
you
that.
need to put that on a shirt. I am
All of that.
So in support work, we call that dignity of failure.
Man, failure is just the ring-a-ding-ding. Please title this episode "Failing Fast and Hard and Often" with Kathleen Mercury. I'm fine with it. It's cool.
Okay, that's cool. Excellent. So thank you so much, Kathleen. It was great to see you again. You're a wonderful testament to, how to get teaching and gaming together. And we are definitely waiting to see what that NDA is all about someday when you can actually talk to us about it. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I will be more than happy to. You two are both amazing, wonderful, talented, incredibly supportive people. And, you two have meant a lot to me in terms of my success and my progress in this industry and, and in teaching. So I respect the hell out of you two. And I'm super glad I know you as people.
Oh, thanks so much. So, Kathleen, where can people reach you if they need to reach you? Other than KathleenMercury.com.
Just kidding.
My phone number. No.
Call my mom.
Where are you on the twits? Where are you on the Twitters?
There's Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Mercury. So there's 7 M's. So at Mercury, 7 M's. You can also contact me through my website, KathleenMercury.com. That's how you can email me if you want to say something longer. Those are really the
characters.
Yeah. So, but those are really the 2 best ways to get a hold of me. But yeah, use my stuff. Take it, change it, do it better than I do. Let me know how you did it. Come be on my show, Games in Schools and Libraries, podcast with Inverse Genius. And I'd love to talk with anybody out there who does work with games in the classroom somehow, some way. Even if you're not sure, come talk to me about it. It'll be fun.
We'll find out if you are true. And Erica, where can we find you?
Oh, we're doing this? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? Besides,
you're the one who wanted to do this for if we do it on audio, we have to put this on there.
It's true. We're trying to get the podcast back up and running. All right. So on Twitter, I am Frenemy Games, but it's Frenemy spelled more like friend with an I. And then obviously you can reach us through Meeple Syrup is either on Facebook or on Twitter.
Yeah. And you can find me on Twitter at Senfeng Lim. You can add me on Facebook, although I've been not adding people lately.
It's too many people add. I don't know who you are when you don't have profile pictures.
But definitely hit us up on Meeple Syrup on Twitter as well if you have any questions. So that is it for this show. Next week, we will have Jesse back, which is a great thing because he has control over the cameras better than I do, which is nice. You can put up the little blip blops and blue laps.
And he dances, apparently. So
He does dance. Dancing Jesse. And we'll have next week, I think we're having Kate Finch and Joel Finch from Brisbane, Australia. And we are going to talk UX design. So user experience design and how to not fail at it in board game design, because it is quintessential to a good play experience. So come back 7 days from now and we'll have that show for you live and direct, and we'll probably be back on Facebook Live. So we'll see you all later. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you, Andrew, Eric, Jamie, Travis, Robert. Who else is there? Ming, everybody who was watching and participating in the feed today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all later. Goodbye.
Bye.